Howdy folks, and welcome to another episode of Star Wars Vehicles with me, Tenopia. And in this episode I'm going to be featuring the Armored Assault Tank, or the AAT, as used by the Confederacy of Independent Star Systems during the Clone Wars. Now, like all vehicles in the Trade Federation's Armada, the Armored Assault Tank, which was often known as the AAT or Battle Tank, was the creation of designers from the Bactoid Armor Workshop. Now, Bactoid were former commerce partners with the Trade Federation, and their expertise in building weapons of war was covertly turned to serve the Neimoidian government in the months leading up to the Naboo invasion. Now, along with units like the multi-troop transport, the Armored Assault Tank formed the ground-based spearhead of the Trade Federation's military might, manned by an unswerving droid army that answered only to its control ship's commands. A repulsive vehicle, the AAT could cruise a meter or so above the ground, depending on local gravitational conditions. There was a series of repulsor lift coils mounted in strips at the rear of the lower hull, which provided forward motive power, while a large repulsor disc concealed inside the armoured skirt gave the tank lift. Now, the forward repulsor disc was compact but powerful, and used a large amount of the AAT's power supply just to raise the weighty vehicle off the ground. Now, the vehicle itself had a crew of 4 and could be operated by most humanoids, although the Trade Federation tended to crew their armoured assault tanks with battle droids. Now, a single droid, designated with yellow patterns on its head and shoulders, would serve as the tank commander, seated at a station in the upper turret. Now, the commander would interpret orders from the control ship for the crew and survey the battlefield through a ring of sensor domes. The commander could also operate the main gun if needed. Now, a pilot droid, identified by blue patterns on its head and shoulders, drove the armoured vehicle and provided gunnery information using both a stereoscopic and periscopic camera. Now, 2 more battle droids will be seated behind the pilot, operating shell projectors, secondary laser cannons, and blasters. In addition, a series of handholds on the outer hull could allow up to 6 more battle droid soldiers to ride on the exterior of the AAT. Now, in the event that the unit's visual sensors were rendered inoperable, hatches could be opened in the turret and on the upper hull to allow the tank commander and pilot to see directly out into the combat zone. However, this option would make the crew quite vulnerable to attack. Now, the battle tank itself was armed with 4 distinct weapon systems, both projectile and beam-based. The main weapon was the AAT's primary laser gun, a laser tuned for attacks on long-range targets. Mounted in the tank's main turret, the laser cannon had a full 360-degree freedom of movement on the horizontal plane and could be directed straight up if required. However, the gun could not be fired on targets inside a certain range. To cover this blind spot, 2 secondary laser cannons were mounted on pylons on either side of the upper hull. Now, equipped with small, harmless range-finding lasers, these pylon pods could engage smaller targets at close range and had a limited degree of movement in the vertical plane. In addition, twin small-bore, short-range blaster cannons were fitted in a forward-firing arc on either side of the air cooling intake on the tank's prow. Now, these blasters were primarily deployed as anti-personnel weapons, charged with taking out infantry or light assault vehicles. In addition to the energy weapons, the armoured assault tank fielded 6 projectile launch tubes along the leading edge of the vehicle's repulsor lift shroud. Now, the tubes could launch a range of warheads. Standard high-energy shells were used for anti-personnel and anti-vehicle use. Armor-piercing shells were used on hardened targets, and high-explosive warheads were used as bunker busters against reinforced buildings. Now, shells were fired through energy cocooning chambers that sheathed them in white-hot plasma, serving to improve the shot's penetrating power. The triple shell loadout was typical for the standard AAT fire missions, although specialized ammunition stocks could be deployed if required. In combat, shell launchers were fully automated. They could be reloaded only at a Trade Federation base, where the entire underside tray of the repulsive shroud was replaced. Now, the AAT was protected by the sheer weight of its armor plating, with the vehicle's exterior hull over half a meter thick in some places. The toughest section of the tank was the nose ram, a rounded oblate section on the prow that could smash through the walls of most civilian and non-reinforced military buildings. Shrouded from energy shots, the vehicle's all-important repulsive discs and shell launchers could function under even the most powerful bombardment. Designed to operate in the theatre of war in formal battle lines, the AAT's forward section was well protected, while its rear and underside were softer targets for attack. The only serious weakness in the vehicle's design came in two places. If the twin control antennae were shot out, the AAT's droid crew would be unable to process orders, and if the power converter conduits, which were kept open to vent waste heat, were hit, the tank would suffer a thermal overload. And the AAT also used a multi-reactor power plant module with 4 independent fusion chambers in order to create a constant energy supply for its internal systems. Now, the reactor, along with the key powertrain elements and the tank's communications gear, was mounted in the rear for maximum protection from enemy fire. And even though that much of its power was devoted to its repulsor lift engines, the AAT was not actually really swift or agile. Although formidable in full battle formation on the field, it became quite vulnerable to attack in smaller spaces within the city of Theed. And there you have it. That's a summary of pretty much everything you need to know about the Trade Federation's Armoured Assault Tank, or AAT. Now, if you like the video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to keep up to date with all my videos, and as always, I'll talk to you all in the next one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I'll catch you later, and may the Force be with you.